here. Because human trafficking can look like somebody like me as well. I don't think that it looks like somebody like me. But I know that slavery did not die 150 years ago. I know that for a fact because I was enslaved for 2 years. Human trafficking is the foremost youth and women's issue of our day today. Foremost. Isn't that amazing? We're not hearing about it, right? It's the new hot issue like domestic violence was 10, 15, 20 years ago, and everybody was in an uproar trying to train law enforcement. Human trafficking is the issue of today. Yet we hardly notice it. I consider it America's dirty little secret, and I say that over and over again on national news, anywhere anybody wants to hear it. It is America's dirty little secret that nobody's talking about. Sex trafficking of children has become the most violent, unforgivable crime in our country today. It's the second leading crime in the world, the fastest growing, and annually there is $32 billion a year in the world made off the sale of another person's body. $9.5 billion of those dollars is right here in the United States. There's a demand for it. People know that they can make money off of it. They can find young girls to sell, and it continues to thrive because nobody's doing anything about it. Part of this is that I'm going to tell you my account because I think that it's very good for people to hear, as difficult as it is for me. It's very difficult, it's very good for people to hear so they can put a face to it, they can put a voice to it, and personalize it. And I think that's very important, and that's what's missing because most survivors don't talk about it, they don't do anything, they just want to get on with their lives. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But when you hear my account, I want you to remember the definition of human trafficking. Essentially, this is a layman's summary of it, it is the manipulation, threats, the coercion of a person so that somebody else can gain financially off of them. Okay? Somebody's financially gaining off of the manipulation and coercion and threats of a person. It removes an individual's freedom, and the victims feel as if they have no other choice. They have no other options. It doesn't matter if you sit there and think, well, she could have done this, she could have done that. It's what the victim thinks in her mind, is if I have no other choice. So for me, I was brought up in the upper middle class. I lived in a suburb of Detroit, Michigan called Birmingham. We actually lived in a town called Beverly Hills. And we moved around a lot, every 2 years. My dad was transferred. He was a big executive for a big company. And every 2 years, like clockwork, we moved. He got a raise, and he got a promotion, and he got to get transferred. And we kind of thought it was fun. My mom made it into a game as we were young. But as we got older, it got obviously more difficult. So we moved to this suburb of Detroit, and I had never been to a place like this. You know, we'd always lived in the country, and I was amazed by it. I embraced it. I've never seen so many cultures in my life. The farmers markets were really cool, and I was amazed by all the cultures. And so my story really starts at when I was 15 years of age. And I had developed a crush on one of these boys in my school. They're all very rich, but he was of a different ethnic group than I was. And that does play a part into why it happened to me, but maybe not necessarily for somebody else. I told my friends, you know, that I thought this guy was cute, and they said, oh, no, you're not allowed to date him. You're not even allowed to talk to them. And I thought that was absolutely crazy. I'd never heard of anything like that before, but they were very serious. So one day, he offers me a ride home from school. Innocent, right? 15 years of age, not supposed to like him, no one's supposed to know. And he offers me a ride home from school. What do you think I said? Heck yeah! I was like, all right, he likes me. So we get into his brand new, very expensive car. I pull out of the parking lot, and my house you had to turn left to, and he turned right. And I said, I live this way. And he said, well, I know, which I didn't know at the time how he knew that. And he said, I just have to run by my house to get something. Now, red flags went off in my head. You know, I was a good Catholic girl. My parents had had long conversations with me. I was the oldest and the only girl. And so the red flags went off, and I quickly, you know, just dismissed them, saying, well, I know him. I go to school with him. You know, it's going to be okay. He goes to my church. You know, it's fine. So we pull into his driveway, and it was the biggest house I had ever seen in my life. Never seen a house this big. There was no cars in the driveway, which I thought was odd. And he said, "Do you want to come in? I just go get the house." Well, red flags went off, and my parents had talked to me extensively about this. And I said, "No, I really shouldn't. I need to get home." And he said, "I want to get to know you." That's all it took. That's all it took. Most of us would have fallen for that. So we went into this house, and curiosity had gotten me as well. I wanted to see what the inside of this ethnic mansion looked like. I would never get a chance to do that. And so we go in, and quickly things, heat up. And in the end, I was raped by him. He offered me a drink, and now I know that that drink was laced with something. And then he raped me. And that was tragic, I can tell you, because I was a virgin. I was Catholic, and that meant the world to me. That meant I had always assumed that when I got married was when I was going to lose it. And I really wanted that. It was very, very important for me. So it was devastating to have that ripped from me. It was something I was proud of, being a virgin. It was something I valued very much. And it was tragic. It was very tragic. I was in trauma from that. But as traumatic as that was, it wasn't the worst of it. Because several days later, he came to me and said that we hadn't been the only ones in the house. That there were two of his cousins there taking pictures. This had been planned. The whole thing had been planned. They told him to convey to me that they had a plan of these pictures and I was to earn them back for us. I'm around 15 years of age. They said that they would show them to my father. Now, I didn't have that to know that I wasn't a virgin anymore. No way. Not even under those circumstances. He would have been, it was very shameful, is what I felt. They said that they would show them to his work, his boss. Now, his job was the most important thing to him in the world. And in those days, he would have been fired. They threatened to show them around school and post them in the hallways. I was new there. I was trying to make friends, trying to fit in. I was 15, it's very difficult. As you all know, if that would happen even today, your reputation was over instantly. And they threatened to show them to the priest of the church that I went to. They belonged to a large criminal underground ring, and they were going to kill me, kill my family if I didn't do this. They watched my every move. It was not uncommon to be followed home from school. I walked to and home from school every day. And if I woke up and came outside, it was not uncommon to see a car parked down the road sitting there and watching. I had a part-time job at Burger King, and they would come in, and they would just stand in the doorway. They didn't say anything. They just stood there like this. They didn't order anything. They didn't have to. If I was babysitting, as most 13-year-olds do, they could find me. The phone would ring, and they would know where I was. This is before the internet and cell phones. Sometimes, as I walked home from school, a car would actually pull up and sit there and demand, the person in it would demand that I got in, and I would be taken away. I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea where I was going to end up, how long I'd be gone for, how I was going to get home, when. And all I knew, the only thing I knew was that it would last until they were finished. Time and time again, this happened, and I was just a kid. They threatened to kill my family if I told anyone. They threatened me on a daily basis, and I essentially became a middle-class teenage sex slave to these men. So how they would contact me is I had a private line in my room before cell phones, so I had a private phone in my room, and they would call the phone in my room several times a week after midnight and demand that I appear immediately. Now, I didn't take time to do my hair, to put makeup on, to get, fancy clothes on, none of that. This was serious business. And I knew the longer that it took me to get there, the worse price I'd have to pay. I generally